Thank you very much for joining us for today's Next Practices Live webinar. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing Engineer Mahmood Lutaaya, and he is the General Manager Kampala Water of the National Water and Sewerage Corporation of Uganda. So thank you very, very much for joining us today, Engineer Lutaaya. We would love to start asking you some questions and jump right into it, if that's okay with you, if you're ready for us.
Yes, perfect.
Excellent, excellent. So I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about the National Water and Sewerage Corporation of Uganda. Who is its owner, and what is its role in Uganda, so that we can all get some context.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for this session. I think it's a very important session, especially during this period when we're trying to learn from each other, how each country is trying to respond to this pandemic. So National Water is a national utility that is 100% owned by the government of Uganda. It was established in around 1972, and the mandate of the corporation is to provide water and sewage services to areas that are entrusted to it by the government on a financially and commercially viable basis. So that's the mandate. And right now we are operating in over around 257 towns across the country. So it's a national utility. It spreads also out across the country, and we have over 17 million people that we serve. And we have a vision as a corporation. We want to be the leading customer service oriented utility within the world. So that's the vision for the corporation.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. That is excellent thing to hear. Glad you're striving for that. That is always a good thing. So
yeah,
I am sure that the pandemic has, of course, impacted you and impacted your customers. Could you please tell us how it has indeed impacted your customers and how this pandemic has impacted your company? Again, just to give us some context.
Yeah, so I'll start with the context for the country. Just like I think across the country, the world, sorry, this has been a challenge everywhere. For the case of Uganda, we registered our first case that was around 21st March. That's when we registered the first confirmed case of a COVID patient. And since then, the government has been issuing a number of instructions and guidelines how we're supposed to conduct business. And as I speak right now, we so far registered around 696 confirmed cases of COVID patients. Lucky enough, we haven't registered any person dying as a country. So it shows you that we've had very strong leadership at all levels that has managed to guide the population and all our operations. Now, a number of instructions have been issued in order to guide the public and the community on how they're supposed to behave. From the word go, there's been suspension of most of the businesses. At one point, we had suspension of public and private transport. We had total lockdown of businesses apart from the essential services. Even the outlawed mass gatherings, there's no church, there is no going for prayer areas. And we have been having a national curfew where you work from 7 up to 6:30 in the morning. And up to now, we're still operating within the national curfew. So in the last 2-3 weeks, there's been some bit of easing down of some of the lockdown measures, but still a number of them still exist. So definitely this has significantly affected our customers. A number of businesses have been closed down. And even up to now, some are still closed down. So it means that people haven't been working, people haven't been having money. Then on side of the corporation, definitely water has been an essential service. So amid all these challenges, we're expected to make sure that people get water. We continued working under very constrained operations. Like I told you about the curfew, so you have to work up to 7, but also knowing that people need water throughout the day. So we're a 24-hour service company. But also the other side, in terms of operation, a number of our service providers haven't been accessible. So it means that some of the critical inputs we need for operations we couldn't easily access them. And then definitely also given the fact that the customers didn't have money, our sales have dropped and our revenue has come down. And yet, as National Water, you realize for us, we don't rely on any government subsidy as far as operation is concerned. We're basically being self-sufficient. We completely depend on the revenue we get from the customers. So any drop in sales definitely affects how we operate.
Excellent, excellent. I'm really glad to hear that you've been able to be self-sufficient in terms of operations. That's fabulous. Very hard to do in general, and very hard to do, especially in these times, for sure.
Yeah, sure.
How has the National Water and Sewerage Corporation stayed in touch with its customers during the pandemic?
Yes, it's been a very challenging period. We have had a situation whereby basically people haven't been moving, and also there were guidelines where we told we're supposed, sorry about that, to decongest our offices. So it means that we've been operating with half our staff complement. Most of our staff have been working from home. But what we've tried to do is within this period, we made sure that we kept available. Like I said, we have a workforce of over 3,000. So been operating with half of that, and we managed to make sure that they are properly equipped with the PPEs to make sure that when they go to the field, they are protected, but also the customers are protected. But most importantly, in order to get in touch with the customers, we have, as a corporation, even before the COVID, we've been having a very strong presence on social media. So this time we have tried to leverage technology to be able to reach out to the customers. So we have a very active social media platforms. We are very active on Twitter. We have almost 86,000 followers on Twitter alone. Then we have a very strong Facebook platform. All our social media platforms have been very active. And this time we have tried to appreciate the relevance and the importance of being able to reach out to our customers. The other thing also with what we've tried to do is to utilize our website platform as well. So we've tried to communicate to our customers that you don't have to come to the offices, but you can go to our website. Whatever service you could get from the office, you can easily get it from our website. Also, we have a mobile app that we've tried to share with the customer. So in principle, the customer has been getting the service at the convenience of their home without necessarily having to come to our offices. Then we also provided toll-free lines. So we have different categories of customers. The customers who are easily can access the technology, but also we know there are a number of customers that are not able to have access to the technology. So we've been able to reach them through the radio stations. More or less every 2 days, we've been having a radio program, a TV program, and we've been using all these platforms, most important, to make sure that we reach out to the customers, we keep them informed on what measures we are taking place as far as the operation is concerned, and then all their concerns, we're able to respond them within the shortest time possible. So communication for us.
Excellent. It sounds like I know, unfortunately, I think you got cut off there just a few seconds here and there.
Yeah.
But I think all the gist of what you were saying, it sounds like you have a very comprehensive plan on how to stay in contact with your customers, which is fabulous. Excellent. It's good to know. It's good to hear. I don't think I had heard such a comprehensive plan from anybody, and reaching out through so many different media and ways. And that brings me up to the next question that I have for you, actually, which is something that I find very interesting. It sounds like your corporation has a COVID-19 partnership with the telecom operator, the MT and the mobile telephone network. Could you please tell us about that and how it is helping or has helped with the crisis so far?
Yeah, I think, like I said, even before COVID, we've been having a number of partnerships. We look at telecom, as our strong partners. From way back, we were one of the first companies within the region that phased out collecting money through cash offices. So we went to the mobile apps, pay through the mobile money. So we've been having very strong partnerships with the telecom companies. And during this period of crisis, that partnership again was tested more. We reached out to them and they reached out to us, and the intention was to see how do we benefit or how do we help people who are in areas that were strictly water stressed. So realize during this period, water was very critical for everyone. Now, our network is really stretched. Like I said, National Water is operating within the gazetted areas, but there are places in the outskirts of the city that have challenges with water. So for those places, we had a partnership with MTN Uganda, where they made a contribution. And what we're doing within that partnership was make sure that we put out public water points in places that were water stressed or are water stressed. So the arrangement was that would construct a public water point, and that water point will be equipped with a reservoir tank, which was 10,000 liters. And we had water bowsers that we'll use to ferry water to those places that were not connected to our network. So this is a partnership that has been critical, a number of points that were put up. And again, within that partnership, what we tried to make sure that water within those at those places was to the lowest tariff that is available. As a corporation, we made sure that people operating those points were paid by the corporation. So MTN, I think this partnership was very important and has in a way benefited a number of people that were in places where during this period, if we hadn't provided them with water, it would have been, I would say, crisis.
Excellent, excellent. How, changing subjects a little bit, I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about how your corporation has worked with ministry officials to ensure that the government makes fully informed decisions in this space, in these times.
Yeah, I think from the beginning, water, again, given the importance of water, especially during this period, and knowing that if we are to fight and win the war against the pandemic, we needed to have water. Everyone needed to have water. So national water was included among the essential services first, but also we are on the task force. As a country, we had what we call the National COVID-19 Task Force. It's a task force that was charged with the responsibility of coordinating all the activities and initiatives that were geared towards fighting the pandemic. So National Water has been a member or is a member of the National COVID-19 Task Force. And through this task force, we've been coordinating with all the relevant institutions of government to make sure that where there is critical need for services we provide, we're able to identify areas that are at risk. And together with the ministry, with government and the different entities, we're able to quickly respond to address any challenges that would arise. So us being members of the task force, I think, was a very important aspect to the coordination, but also making sure that government and all the key players had the relevant information to make informed decisions.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'd like to take you back a little bit to something that you touched on earlier, and it has to do with finances. So what steps has the National Water and Sewerage Corporation taken to maintain its financial viability? Could you tell us a little bit about that? What they've done, what you all have done to stay as well as you can in these times?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. So basically, financially self-sustaining as far as operations are concerned. So basically, we are able to cover all the costs related to our operations. Now, during this period, there was a directive by government that we can't disconnect. We can't disconnect people, and yet, under normal times, one of the means for us to collect revenue is through disconnection. So we've had to suspend disconnection as a means of collecting money. And the fact that most businesses have been working, so it means that our revenue and sales have been impacted. So with limited resources, we've had to be a bit more innovative how we sustain our operations. one of the things we've had to do was to review our expenditure. So we've also, in terms of expenditure, we have had to maintain what we call essential expenditure. So we've had to basically postpone most of our development expenditure, most of our capital expenditure, we've had to suspend it. And also when it comes to operation, also we have had to review. And I think our operation expenditure has also been cut almost to 60%. So that we basically operate within the limited resources that we have. And then the other approach that we've also tried to do is to, as we are aware, we can't disconnect people. So the engagement of the customers through the different platforms, we've had to make them appreciate that if we have to continue providing the service, we have to continue paying. So this has been very important. And we have got very positive response from our customers. It's been very hard times, but somehow still people have managed to pay because they've appreciated and realized the value of water and also the service we provided. So those are some of the things we've tried to do. One is to appreciate that we can't disconnect people, but if we are to survive, people still have to pay. So that's why the mass communication and engagement of the customers has been very critical. But also on our side, we've had to significantly review how we operate and how we spend, and also in a way delay some of the critical expenditure as far as especially the development expenditure is concerned.
Thank you. That actually just takes me right into my next question that I was kind of hoping would be able to discuss. And I think I'll just take just a moment here to ask you that question, which is, you know, given the practices that your corporation has been going through in the recent times, you know.
Yeah.
So basically, what changes in your corporation practices during the pandemic do you think may be kept after the pandemic?
Yes, I think the pandemic has tested us. For us in National Water, we've had completed total transformation in the way we operate. Like I said, we managed to do a lot more with less. Yeah. So that's something that is going to stay. So the way we spend, the way we prioritize our activities and expenditure is not going to change, because we realize that we can still achieve so much with so little. So that's something that is going to stay, and hopefully it is a good thing. It's a positive that we take away from this exercise. The other thing is technology and engagement of the customers. I think before the pandemic, like I explained earlier, what we used to do is we all believe that the only way you can get money from the person is when you disconnect the service. So this pandemic, it has also showed us that actually, if you properly engage the person and you're able to make them appreciate the value of the service you provide, people can pay. And also we believe this is also going to stay on our side, but also on the side of the customers, that they can still pay for the service even before they are disconnected. And the other thing that is also going to stay is the response. So with the demand and the importance of water, we have had to respond very fast to the needs and the expectation of the customers. So we've reorganized the way we operate. We have what we call rapid response teams. If there's any problem with water, we're able to respond to it within less than 2 hours. So that reorganization, that level of efficiency is also going to stay. We're not going to change that. So there are so many positives that we take away from this. The challenges that the pandemic has presented to us have also made us a bit more resilient and also more responsive, and also made us more smarter in the way we operate, and I think that all that won't change.
That's impressive. That's impressive. That's really it's quite of I think an interesting experience, how situations such as this one in times of crisis pushes us to rethink so much of what we do and how we do it, and somehow one way or another we come up with a better, more efficient and more effective way of doing things. So
yeah, sure. So it's a good lesson for us.
Yeah, excellent to hear. Thank you for sharing all that with us. I do hope that our participants will be posting some questions for you here. I am sure they will. In the meantime, I did receive, if that's okay with you, I'd like to jump into the questions from the audience. I did receive a very good question, I think, that has to do with your partnership, your relationship with the mobile telephone network, MTN. It says, your relationship with MTN seems unique. What do you think motivated MTN to cooperate with you in this way?
Like I said, even before the COVID, we had a partnership. We are beyond one of our strongest partner when it comes to the payment is through the MTN platforms that a number of our customers pay. Actually, it's not just about that alone. Also, what MTN did was to suspend any fees that were related to payments. So people during this period, people were paying when they, as long as they were paying for water, they were not being charged. The payment, the fee for that. So there are a number of contributions the telecom company did. So the motivation for MTN was really within the country, a number of entities came out to support the communities. So this was a national call, I would say, where everyone wanted to make a contribution. In times of crisis, that's when you get to know who your friends are, and I think through this, MTN and National came together as very good friends to try to respond to the crisis and the cries of the public. So the motivation was really down to how can we give back to the community? How can we help the community in the times of need? And that was one of the motivation that drove this partnership. And we hope that again, such partnerships will continue even after COVID.
Very good, very good. I sure hope so. It sounds like they've been extremely productive and good for you all and good for customers, and that is definitely the key element. So I have another question for you that somebody sent me. So this person liked what you said about engaging with the customers rather than threatening them to discount them. So can you tell us more about how that worked? And are there any examples that you have that stood out to you?
Yes, we have had a number of, what we've tried to do, like I told you, we've tried to use all the different platforms. More or less every 2 days, we've been having a talk show on radio, on TV, and on social media. We've engaged the public to give us their comment. But what we've tried to communicate more is that water is something that everyone can't live without during this period. And we've presented ourselves as not as a business, but as a service. And we try to make people appreciate that this service is affordable, is critical, and it's essential. And for us to keep it running, we need everyone's support. And everyone has to make their contribution. And the only way anyone can make a contribution is by them paying their bills. So already from the word go, the moment we said that we're not going to disconnect you, but we ask you to clear your bill. Already there was that connection we established with the customers, that we're not out there to threaten them, but we are partners and we want to win this war together. We want to win the war with clean water. And if we are to get clean water, they need to support us so that we continue sustaining and providing the service. So that has been a bit the magic. We've tried to use a number of graphics on Twitter where we connect with the customers. We tell them, wash your hands, but keep the water flowing. If the taps have to keep flowing, please clear your bills. But also made it very convenient for them to clear their bills through their mobile phones. So it means that they don't have to walk anywhere to pay, but they just, at the convenience of in their homes, they just go on their phones, they click a button, and then boom, they're paid. So a number of combinations, one, convenience for them, but most importantly, for them to appreciate that this is a service that is so critical that if we are to keep it flowing, everyone has to make a contribution. And if you can, because what we are saying is, if you can, we know a number of people want to, but they couldn't afford because of the situation. So we're basically rallying and calling upon those that could afford. If you could pay for airtime on the phone, if you could pay for maybe for some essential services at home, make sure that water is one of them and just pay your bill. So that's how and also what we try to sell is that the service is really affordable and our service is really affordable. So we made it clear to them that water is not expensive. It's a service that is critical, that is essential, and everyone has to make their contribution.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Making it easy on the customer and helping everybody out. Very good.
Yeah, sure.
I would like to see, Sam, if we have anybody who may wish to ask, may have raised their hands to ask any questions. Otherwise, I have a couple more questions that I'd love to ask, but I want to allow for interaction from other participants as well.
Sure, yes, thank you so much, Araceli. So if anyone would like to share, we encourage that. So in order to do so, you would just go to the participant tab at the bottom of your screen if you're using a laptop or a desktop. And you'll select the participant tab and there's a hand raising icon where you can click on that. It'll prompt me that you would like to share, and then I'll unmute your audio and your video if you'd like to share your video. If not, that's totally fine as well. But as of right now, Araceli, we don't have any hands raised or any questions in the chat. But I will absolutely keep an eye on that, and I'll send everyone a note too, just to follow up on how to do the hand raising if you would like to share.
Perfect. If we don't have any other questions on the chat, I do have a couple more questions I'd like to ask since we have the time, while others may want to get ready to raise their hands. Is one thing that really caught my attention is that you talked about learning who your friends are in these times. And so, so it sounds like relationships are very important in this context from what you said. So what does the National Water and Sewerage Corporation do to develop strong relationships before the problems occur?
We have had, I think, we have a 5-year strategic plan, strategic direction that basically guide all our operations. Our agenda as a corporation, we call it Water for All. So the most important thing is we try to connect with every partner we have. Our agenda is making sure that people have access to safe water and sewage services for all. So we don't discriminate. So already we connect with people for the purpose for which we exist. So for the last 5 years, that has been the agenda, that has been our focus. We try as much as possible, we've been trying as much as possible to prioritize interventions that make sure that people get access to safe water. Now, to achieve that, we realize that we need to partner and engage with the different people, different stakeholders, from the customers, from the local leaders, from the government, and even sometimes, most times, the development partners and NGOs, and even the private sector. So it's something that we've realized that it's been very critical for operations. We have different platforms that we achieve that. Like I said, we are operating almost 257 towns across the country. So each of the towns, we have what we call a local user committee. So that basically represents the interests of the local community as far as our operations are concerned. So we have the different platforms that we've even been using before COVID. Then even for the private sector, like in this case, MTN, we had platforms and regular engagements where we engage them so that, first of all, they can join us in this very important cause of making sure that we achieve water for all within the country, but also we support any initiative they have. So the relationship we've created and developed with the different partners and stakeholders have helped us even come out stronger during this period. But for me, what I take away most in all this is the fact that people relate a lot with the purpose for which we do everything. And our purpose is to make sure that everyone has access to safe water and people connect with that purpose.
Excellent. That's a great explanation. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. also in that space, I have another question for you that has to do with your purpose and has to do with the mission and the vision that you have for your organization to be well, the best or the most customer-oriented water utility in the world. How do you measure success in customer orientation? Like, you know, how do you know that you're doing well in that space and that you're taking the right steps to achieve that vision?
We as a corporation, what we've tried to do is be fully accountable to the public and the customer. I know there's a meeting we attended to, and I think we're sharing experiences with some of the utilities, and this utility I think happened to be from the US. When we told them that we had a following on Twitter of 86,000 followers on Twitter, the person couldn't believe that there's a utility within Africa that, you know. So what we've tried to do is really put ourselves out there for the public to judge us. So we always take positively any criticism or shortfall in our performance, but also be able to engage effectively with our customers and all the other stakeholders. So the only way we judge ourselves that we are making progress is the feedback we get from the customers, the feedback we get from the different stakeholders. And so there's no measure that we, and in our case, service provision, especially when it comes to the customer, is a moving target. So you have a customer today is satisfied with 24-hour service. The next day, his demand is beyond just the water, and he wants something else. So that's, we keep challenging ourselves, and we also want to keep ourselves measuring ourselves with the best. So we have a competition right now within the country where they try to look at the most active entity when it comes to social media, and we've been beating even the telecom companies. So we've tried to make sure that we adapt the best practices that are out there, that any private company is using, whether we are public, we've adapted them. But most importantly, I think what we've tried to do is make sure that we are being held accountable by the public, you know. So that's why we don't feel shy being criticized, even if on social media or any platform. So make sure that whatever issues customers bring to our attention, we're able to fully respond to them within the shortest time possible. So that's what we've tried to do, and that's what we're going to make sure that we continue doing.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. So now, Sam, I was wondering if you have any raised hands or anybody would like to add any more questions, either to the chat or to, well, ask live. And if not, I have some other things I'd love to ask Engineer Lutaaya about. But I want to give some room here for others to do so too.
Sure, yeah. So as of right now, I don't see any hands raised, but I will absolutely keep an eye on it. But right now, we do not have any hands raised from participants.
Okay, so I do have another question, and this is more into kind of my area, you know, the leadership space. And of course, we know your managing director, Silver Mugisha, and quite well. And it sounds to me like your success in your organization, it could be very well related, you know, to your leadership team. So what does the National Water and Sewerage Corporation do to develop good leaders?
I think that's a very important question, and I would say most of the things we've tried to do and the things we continue doing, even our ability to go through this situational period, has been down to leadership. As a corporation, we've had very strong leadership at the different level. We have a very strong board of directors, which has also been very critical in providing the right leadership during this period. But and also the MD, like you said, he has been at the forefront. You know, like I said, communication has been critical, not just only with the customers, but also with the staff, mobilizing and rallying them so that you have the right mindset, you have the right, you know, direction as a corporation, and how do you respond to this situation. So leadership has been critical, and the way it has been coming out is, we, like I said, we relate a lot with the purpose. So even within the corporation, they want every staff tries to connect with the purpose of the institution. So the moment everyone appreciates that you are there for the service and the community you want to protect, to serve, that has generated a certain caliber of team that we seem to have in National Water, that at the end of the day, we all seem to have the same purpose to whatever we're doing. And I think it shows you that from the vision, if you look at our vision, it focuses on the customer. When you look at our agenda, is looking at water for all. So if you dig down to whatever is happening within the corporation is related to service. So this has created a sense of direction at all levels, from the board to the MD to the lowest level, that everyone is for this. And then what the corporation also try to do is the delegation part of it. I'm responsible for Kampala, which is the capital, but I'm given the full autonomy, but also held accountable. So you're given the powers to do certain things, but you're held fully accountable for your action. So this has also been very critical in developing the right teams, developing the right leaders in the corporation. One thing that has happened in National Water over time, and I think if you do a lot of research on the reforms that have taken place within the corporation, we are one of the institutions or utilities within the region that started what we call the delegated management kind of arrangements, because before, always believed that you need to have a private company to come and take over and operate and run most of the utilities within the region. But we're able to prove that you can still pick the good things, what the public utility, the private sector would bring within the utility, and just with the right team, you can still adapt them. And that's something that we've tried to do through our delegation model within the corporation, that we still operate with public utility, but we're operating like we are a private entity. That's why when I say that we are fully financially sustaining, we don't depend on government for any operational activities. No, we do that. We are fully self-sustaining in most cases, and even the surplus we make, we're able to plow it back into investment. So it's something that has happened over time, but most importantly, also the leadership and management puts a strong emphasis on developing staff. So staff capacity is very critical. And when you look around, we are among the few institutions right now. I think in National we have almost 10 PhD holders. So it shows you the strong emphasis that we put on staff development, on leadership development at different levels, but most importantly, we give people space, to be innovative, to make mistakes, to learn. So I would say we are a learning institution, and that one alone, builds the kind of teams that we're having right now.
I love that. You're a learning institution. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
We do have some questions in the chat. So if you'll allow me, I'd like to go ahead and ask you some of those. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we have a question from Jeff that says, could Mr. Mahmood talk a bit more about the number of past due accounts now versus this time last year? We have been tracking past due percentages and have seen percentages for many utilities very high, with some over 40%.
Past due?
Yeah.
Okay, the accounts that are in debt.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So as a corporation, maybe I won't put it in form of accounts because numbers might not mean much, but under normal operations, as a corporation, as a utility, we've been collecting for the last, I think, almost 10 years. We're able to collect 100% of what we bill of ourselves. So we've been able to maintain, I'll put it in form of a debt age of around 2 months. Okay, so that's the level at which we maintain our debt age. So we have a debt age of around 2 months across the corporation. But on a monthly basis, we collect almost 100%. Now, the challenge we had before was definitely with government payments, because when it comes to non-government payments, we're able to collect 100% plus. Now, we had a few challenges with government payments before, but through rigorous engagement, also that the debt for government has also come down significantly. What we've tried to do to achieve that, again, is connect with government, and we've told them, we showed them our plan. Our plan is to make sure that if they can give us the money, then we'll make sure that everyone has access to water. And the moment government was able to connect with the purpose for which you want to use the money, it was very easy for them to even to clear their bills. So right now, government is also at par. We don't have any challenge with government payments at all.
Very good, very good. Thank you. We have another question from Sherman Serpa, who says, I have a general question, given that I don't know the local situation. I know that Uganda is landlocked. It's a landlocked country. So how is water produced in Uganda, and what role did COVID-19 have in the water production?
Okay, so Uganda is a landlocked country, but also is one of the, we're very endowed as a country. We have, I think it's called the second largest freshwater lake in the world. That's Lake Victoria. So in terms of water, most of our water is fresh water. We don't do any desalination or anything. So all the water is from the different lakes, rivers, underground that we get from the country. I mean, within the country. So our water is not in any way related to our being a landlocked country. But the challenge within this period we had, like I mentioned, was basically in respect to access to some of the critical inputs for treatment of the water, like chemicals, especially some of the critical items. But the beauty is that for some of the critical inputs, we have them manufactured within the country. Now, for the other critical items that we've had to import outside the country, before COVID even came in place, we've had what we always call a business continuity plan. We had to make sure that we had stock for most of our critical items that could last us almost 6 months. So this period, this situation caught us when we are basically a prepared utility. And like I said, as far as water supply is concerned, and production of water, we haven't had any challenge at all.
Excellent. We have another question. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Wasila Dridi, that is asking, could we have more information on the non-revenue water and how the utility is managing this?
Yes, non-revenue water, especially during this period of COVID, has been a big challenge. One, in this part of the world and even in Uganda, we have a big percentage of our non-revenue water is due to illegal use, where people use water illegally. And as a corporation, we've been having a very aggressive program where we partner with police. We call it Wallop. So it's a program that we've had partnership with police, and we basically go out and we have a very strong infrastructure of informers that are able to tell us people who are stealing water. So what we've always been doing is that we have police, we've been working with them and we've been arresting such people, and we have publicity of such cases. So this has been a very critical program in the fight against non-revenue water. Now, during this period of COVID, there's been quite a number of restrictions, that you can't work beyond certain times and you can't easily access people's premises. So such interventions that are geared towards fighting non-revenue water, we've had a number of constraints in how we effectively operationalize them. Even constant checking on the performance of meters in people's homes, we couldn't do that. So as a result, during this period, we've registered an increase in our non-revenue water, because the fact that people know we can't go to their homes, we can't investigate, we can't do anything. So people have taken advantage of this situation. Some people, not everyone, to steal the water or to use the water illegally. So that has been a challenge in COVID. And as the easing down, somehow reduces, we are trying to think how can we, reactivate some of these programs. But definitely, NWSC is one of the challenges. Before COVID, as a utility, we are around 28% for the whole country. Our biggest challenge is still within Kampala, where the figure is quite high, and for a number of reasons. Some are related with infrastructure, other related with like what I explained, where people are basically stealing the water. But we have a very well thought through strategy on how we're dealing with that. And even within the COVID situation, we're seeing how we can manage that.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. I'm not seeing any additional questions on the chat. If there's anybody who has any additional questions, please make sure you ask. This is the time. I want to turn things over to Sam. She's going to remind you how to do the hand raising thing and anything in case there's anybody else who'd like to ask a live question. Otherwise, I think we'll be wrapping up pretty soon here.
Yes, so thank you very much, Araceli. Yes, so if anyone does would like to share anything right now, then as I mentioned, you can go to the bottom of the toolbar in the Zoom and you'll see the participant tab and you would select that and there's a hand raising icon that you would click and then that would prompt me that you would like to share or ask a question. I'll give everyone about a minute to do so. If I don't see anything, then we'll know that we're going to wrap things up. But in the meantime, I did want to just chat with our participants quickly. Thank you all so very much for being here with us today and to our speaker. And also, we would love to hear from you on any topics that you'd like to hear in our upcoming Next Practices live sessions, and that we have typically every Tuesday and Thursday. So whether that's energy, water, telecom, we would just love to hear from you all on any topics that you would like to discuss in our future sessions. And also, just last note, I will be sending all of our participants an archived link of today's session, so please feel free to share that with any of your colleagues, you know, who may benefit from this topic discussion. So thank you so very much to Mahmood and to Araceli, both thank you for participating with us today, and thank you to our participants for joining.
Thank you very, very much. Indeed,
thank you so much
for being with us today. And
no, thank you.
Yeah, and sharing so much and being so good and so clear. And thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahmood.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Over our regards.
I will do that. Blessed everyone.
All right.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay. Thank you. Blessed day.
Thanks.